What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. And this one, I'm going to tie a clouser minnow. This is how I like to tie my clousers. When I think of a saltwater bait fish from sitting on a pier or the beach watching them, you always see a lot of flash. Whether they turn sideways, they roll, change direction, there's always a lot of flash. And that's how I like to tie my clousers. That way, it represents more of that saltwater bait fish style. You could do the same with freshwater, but I'm going to show you how I do them. Deer hair is a little tricky for me, at least for trying to grip, especially folding it over the dumbbell eyes. But with that being said, we'll jump right in. So my thread I'm using is Danville 210 and tan. The clouser is going to be tied in white and brown, or white and tan, I guess. The hook I'm using is a Mustad 3407-DT, size 1. I get a nice little thread base started for the lead eyes. Now the lead eyes, for me, once again, I use my forceps. I get them on my hand, and then I can use both of my hands to squeeze down on them, try to grab them best I can. Sometimes it works better than others. So once I have it grabbed, I can get it set on there to about where I want it. Move it back just a tad. And get this wrapped in there. I'm using medium lead eyes. Like I said, a lot of the places I fish, there's current or it's deeper water. So I want the extra weight just to help it to get down more. Try to get those on there straight. I'm going to get my fly out of the way, and then I don't have any super glue, so I'm going to use solar resin bone dry if I can get it opened. I like the solar res bone dry for doing lead eyes or putting a coat on the body. Then it hardens fast. Just really convenient. Where the super glue, you gotta let it dry and all that, and then it can still be tacky. There's a little bit of solar res. So when I build my flies, I like them to be durable. I don't want to have a ruined fly off a fish or two. I want to try to get as many fish out of it as I can. With that, go ahead and cure it. And those should be locked in pretty good. I'm just going to make a quick thread base all the way back. Come into the front. And get some bucktail. I have these tails from this past hunting season. Really nice looking. We tanned. So Saves me a little money on buying material. I'm going to take a nice clump right here from around the tip. Bucktail can be tricky, just trying to get it cut and keep it as straight as possible. I'm going to pull any of the really long fibers out that I don't like. Try to pinch it and pull the shorts out. Now this part for me is a little tricky. Just trying to keep the hair together and not going all over the place, because I can't really pinch it. So I'll get a couple thread wraps on there and make sure I got it on top of the hook. And I'll jump back. Once I get it like this, then I can usually grab it. Try to keep it on top of the hook as best I can anyway. Once I get it to where I want it, then I can come back, do tighter wraps. Make sure everything is locked down nicely. And the underbody of this will be all covered up, so I'm not worried about the thread wraps. We'll go ahead and clean this up some. So if you're like me and you can't stand up, deer hair can be very messy. Even if you can stand up, it's messy, but for me, even more so, can't just stand up and shake it off. It gets a little aggravating sometimes. While I'm at the back, I'm going to take a piece of this saltwater holographic Flashabou. A lot of sparkle, a lot of flash. Get that tied in. Thread come off my bobbin. There we go. I'm gonna work my thread up. I'm gonna go right behind the lead eyes. And now grab my hackle pliers. You can't go wrong with a regular old clouser. Like I said, just looking at bait fish from a perspective of standing there watching them, whether it's on the boat, on a pier, standing on the beach. It's one thing that you always see with bait fish is the flash they make when they're swimming in schools. I'm just doing overlapping wraps. I'm going to go all the way up to behind the lead eyes. It looks like I jostled my tail a little bit, so we'll have to fix that. I'm going to do one more wrap right there. It keeps slipping. And now I'm going to capture that. Pull it back, go back over it so it can't slip free. Fix my tail a little bit. There we go. And trim that off. I'm going to clean up this area a little bit. Now that the body is wrapped in, I don't know how well you can really see that with the lighting, but it's got a nice flashy body, so when you're jigging it in the water, a lot of that flash is going to show, but we're not done yet. But just to make the body more durable, I'm going to take some of the Solar as bone dry again, and I'm just going to paint over the body with it. Grab my light. Go ahead and cure that. That just helps build a tougher fly, especially if you're fishing for anything with teeth, which a lot of saltwater fish have. Can be pretty hard on a fly. So I like making them as tough as I can. I guess I should have. Oh, this will work. Next, I'm going to take some of this Flashaboo. This is silver ice. I like this. I think got a couple different flashes in there. I'll just try to grab a couple. I think I got about 3 strands of flash here. I'm going to pull over my thread. Kind of messed up here. I wanted it to be tied along the shank, but I got a little ahead of myself. So I'm just going to tie it in like this. Get it straight on top of the shank best I can. And lock that down. I'm gonna jump and front of the lead eyes, or behind the lead eyes, sorry, and make just a small little area for the next step. Try to move the flash around so get even coverage. Now let's come through and strip it, or cut it, sorry. I want it about the length of the tail. Now the last step we're going to do is for some gills. Pull down a couple inches of thread. And I'm going to use some UV ice dub in red to make some gills. And for me, for applying dubbing, it's easiest if I use some dubbing wax. So put a little dubbing wax on the thread. It doesn't have to be a lot. Pull out a little bit. Just want to give it kind of that look of blood or gills. Doesn't seem like it's going to stick real well. For me, for dubbing, to spin it, I use the flat parts of my hand here. I just rub it together. That's the easiest way I have found for me to do it. So just like that. It's not the prettiest, but it does what it's supposed to. And we'll just wrap that around. And I will come into the front of the bead chain, or the lead eyes. So just a little extra in it, just to make it look like the gills are bleeding or blood, whatever the fish wants to see it as. Doesn't have to be too complex. For the brown here, I'm going to use the front facing of the hide, so this section. Gonna just cut a little bit of brown off there. So when I cut it, obviously I can't hold it while I'm cutting it, so I try to keep it together, and then I use the tip of the scissors to try to lift the butt ends up to where I can grab them. Same thing, I'm going to pinch it, get rid of all that short fibers. Just try to make it a little nicer. I got one white in there. And again, I'm going to pull the longer ones out. This should be long enough to do it. I'm going to pull it back as much as I can. Get a couple wraps on there to where I can adjust the hair to on top of the hook shank. Be easier said than done. Always get some more shorts in the front. I got it to about where I want it Go ahead and lock it down. And then trim away all the butt ends. Just like so. Being that I didn't remember to put the flash in before I did the underbody, it's going all over the place. And now I'm just going to build up a nice thread head. Like so. Let's see. I'm going to take some Solar Is. This is thin hard. Well, I guess I should whip finish first, huh? Getting ahead of myself. I'm sorry my videos are a little longer. I know it's hard to sit through and watch. Try to do them as fast as I can. For me, isn't very fast. Just trying to cut the material and get everything lined up how I want it. Always takes me a little bit. Alright, now with the whip finish done, we can remove our thread. And now we can do the head. Now there's probably a million different ways that you can tie a clouser. This is how I like to do my saltwater ones. Just a clouser with a bit of bling. But I think this looks good when you're jigging. When you're stripping it through the water, it just makes it look more like a bait fish to me with that extra flash. Just like that. Grab my UV torch again. Hands are fighting me today. It makes it a little more difficult to try to grab things. I'm going to spin this a couple times just to level out the resin. And we'll go ahead and cure it. I did put some on top of the hair, or on the hair where it comes over the lead eyes. Put a little bit there. And just like that. So there you go. Clouser with a bit of bling. Fairly simple, pretty straightforward. Come through and I'll mess with the flash and everything to get it to how I want. But pretty straightforward, easy tie. I like that a little better. There you go. Pretty simple, real bait fishy looking. But thank you for watching. If you like this, please hit the like, leave a comment, hit subscribe if you're new. I'm going to try to upload once a week. But for now, we're done. So have a good one.